Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon. Today our guest is Alex, the program director for EMEA at TinySeed. Hello.
Hey Christian, how are you?
Fantastic, very nice to meet you. Please tell us, what is TinySeed?
So TinySeed is a year-long accelerator program built for ambitious B2B SaaS founders, specifically bootstrap founders. So TinySeed was founded as essentially an option for bootstrap founders that wanted to get funding. They were somewhere between bootstrapping and not wanting to get traditional VC money, but wanting some capital to scale, grow, not wanting to have to get funding from kind of the traditional, often highly pressured VC track.
I understand. And what are the funding options for these founders?
So our funding terms are between 10 and 12% equity in exchange for 120 to 220,000 US dollars. And the only other term to note is that we have a salary cap of 250K. And what this allows us to do is essentially, like I said, we wanted to be an option for founders to not have the pressure of traditional VC money. So this allows founders to grow sustainably, not have pressure from us to sell. That's never our intention to have a founder to feel like they have this unsustainable growth, pressure to grow at all costs. So the salary cap lets them grow at their own rate, stay profitable forever if they want, if they don't want to sell, and still be fair terms on both sides.
That's awesome. And usually how many companies are in a batch?
So we have two regions that we operate under. The first is the Americas, which incorporates North America, South America, and also Australian founders, since the time zone kind of works out that way. They usually have 15 companies per batch, and we do 2 batches per year. And then my region, EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, usually has around 10 companies per batch, also 2 batches per year. So in a year, we're usually, what does that bring us to? Around 50 companies per year.
How many batches have you done until today? Do you have any idea?
I believe we have just done our 10th or 11th batch, and we're about to start applications in September for our fall batches. So that'll be another 2. So we're growing fast.
That's awesome. What would you say are the most well-known companies that you invested in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a few companies that listeners might recognize are Signwell, SavvyCal, UserList, Squadcast. Those are a few that companies I think people will probably recognize.
Okay, that's awesome. What do you say are the strong points of TinySeed?
One of our strongest points is our mentorship. So, like I said, TinySeed was built specifically for B2B SaaS founders. That means we're able to really niche down and provide advice specifically for the B2B SaaS model. And all of the mentors in our program are topic experts on areas that are specifically related to B2B SaaS. So in TinySeed, you're not going to get any general vague business advice that might be applied to any model. It's very specific. We have mentors on a variety of topics. We have sales, marketing, pricing. What else do we have? Onboarding, user onboarding, development, pretty much everything under the moon, anything a challenge that a SaaS founder might come across during their time, we have a mentor. On top of that, we have playbooks that we work throughout the program year. So our playbooks are subjects that we've essentially deemed are the most important fundamental topics that a SaaS founder needs to be able to master to successfully scale their business. And we cover these every 2 weeks. This is run by the TinySeed team. And we do live calls, Q&As with Rob Walling and Einar Volstedt, our partners, which lets the founders have face-to-face time with our team, asking questions, getting answers. So some of the topics we cover during the playbooks are funnels, sales, marketing, hiring, M&A / fundraising, and did I say pricing? Pricing would be the other, yep.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. But to understand better, is there a call every two weeks, or how does it work?
That's a good question. Yeah, so there's an educational call every other week, essentially. We do the playbooks in the first part of the call, so kind of to get everybody on the same footing. Some, founders come from different backgrounds. Some founders have more or less experience in different topics. And then once we finish the playbooks, we continue doing educational calls every other week for the entire year, where we bring on some of our mentors that I mentioned earlier. So that gives founders time to interact and have questions and answer sessions with mentors on a variety of topics. But on top of that, they also are participating in mastermind groups that also meet every other week. So those are on the weeks where we're not having educational calls. So essentially, they have something going on every week that is helping them grow and scale. Their mastermind groups are kind of these small groups of 3 to 4 founders from the batch. They meet with every other week for accountability to share what they're working on, give each other advice, and help each other solve problems and keep moving forward.
That's awesome. And the program usually lasts 6 months, you said?
Actually, a year. We're a year-long program, so it's a lengthy program. We found that 6 months just wasn't enough time for people to really get off the ground. Some accelerator programs are quite quick, and then you're left still kind of guessing what you want to do. So TinySeed, we aim to keep providing support for a bit longer, so that everybody has the mentorship and support they need to scale.
And after that, I guess it's still available, and the groups are there, and you can get the help anytime you want.
Yeah, you kind of hit something a lot of people ask, and it's a good question. We like the joke, although we say the program is only a year long. And in essence, really, our support goes on forever. We actually continue to allow founders to have access to all of our resources even after the year is ended. And it's essentially, the year is kind of the structured part where we're sending calendar reminders and people are coming on a regular basis. But all of our ongoing mentor calls, all alumni have access to every one of those. Alumni, after they finish the program, have one-on-one access to all of our mentors at any time. So anybody can reach out to me as the program director, or Tracy, our America's program director, and this happens a lot. They'll say, hey, I'm facing a challenge with our new sales process. It's really just not working. I want to get some mentorship on that. I'll say, great. Let me schedule you with a one-on-one call with one of our sales mentors. So that's available both during the year, but also onwards, and our alumni regularly take advantage of that. And it's just kind of part of our commitment to help TinySeed companies continue to grow even after the year.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's your interest. And I don't know if it's a stupid question, let's say, but what motivates these mentors? How do you get these mentors? Why are they willing to help?
That's a good question, because all of our mentors are volunteers, actually. They're not paid, and they're all, like I said, topic experts. They're all very successful founders in their own right. So it's a good question. Why are they doing this? They're already busy. We're fortunate to come from a community. Rob Walling, one of our partners, is also the founder of MicroConf, the Startups for the Rest of Us, a former SaaS founder himself, the founder of Drip before he sold it. And a lot of our mentors come from that community, that they were already part of this community that we've been growing over time. They recognize the benefits of giving back to the SaaS community, to helping founders that are kind of in the growing stages right now, because they were at that stage themselves at some time, and they received the support of other founders and mentors to get there. So these mentors are really doing it out of support of SaaS founders. And it works well because, we can say that there's no ulterior motives. The mentors are really there to help out, to give non-biased advice, and just to get you on the right path.
How do you pick the startups that join your program? What is the criteria?
That's a good question. So we have applications every 6 months, and our minimum requirements are that you are a B2B SaaS, of course, because that's what we focus on. And also that you have at least $500 in MRR, so that's monthly reoccurring revenue. And the reason we say that is because TinySeed is meant for companies that already have some traction, that have a product that's starting to get product market fit, and that we can help scale. Companies that are still in the idea phase, we love to support them, and there's other resources, but generally the program is best suited for a company that already has traction. So that's our minimum requirements. Maybe it would be useful, I can also share a little bit about what we look at, some of the
Please.
the things that we see. Yeah. So during applications, there's a few things. Our application process is pretty straightforward. I always tell people that if you have any doubts, just apply. We purposefully keep it short and sweet, not to try to take up too much of your time, because we can glean a lot about where you are just from some basic questions. So some of the things we look at are your numbers. We're very numbers oriented, so we want to know, what's your MRR? What's your MRR been the past 6 months? That gives us an idea of how you've been growing. What is your ARPU, your average revenue per user, your LTV, your lifetime value, those types of things. Churn, of course. Essentially, your essential numbers that kind of give us an idea. Okay, like, where is this company? How are they doing? What's going on? And then we like to hear, one of the big things we like to hear about is what you've been doing, especially in terms of growth. So what marketing channels have you been working on? What is your growth strategy been? What are you doing right now? It helps us understand kind of where the founder's mind is at and what they're doing to grow over time.
I understand. And apart from MicroConf, do you also do some physical events with the startups in batches, or is it full online?
Yeah, so TinySeed is primarily a remote company or remote accelerator, because we realized that most bootstrap SaaS companies were operating from around the country, and to require them to come to one specific location for 3 months is unreasonable for a lot of people. But we do have in-person opportunities. One of them is our kickoff retreat right at the start of each program year. One of my favorite parts of the year, we pull in all the founders from each batch that are starting off, and we pick a location, and we do about 2.5 days of getting everyone together. We do masterminding in person. We do one of our playbook sessions in person. And then we also build in some time for the founders to get to know each other. Because essentially, aside from the education component, we also want founders to have a chance to build relationships with each other, to build support systems. Because although the mentorship at TinySeed is incredible, another amazing aspect of it is the actual founders in the program. The founders are all incredibly intelligent, ambitious founders, and there's a lot of value to gather from each other, wisdom that they can share. So the kickoff retreat is a great opportunity for the founders to come together and meet each other, and start building those relationships that they'll grow over time. But outside of that, we also try to put in a few in-person opportunities throughout the year so that the founders can keep meeting in person. All of these are optional. They're not required to be part of the program, but if you're able to make them, they're a great time.
That's fantastic. I love your community. It seems super fantastic and out of this world, let's say. I love to know when you joined the company, when you joined TinySeed.
I joined TinySeed at the end of 2021. So that was right when we were starting the EMEA program. TinySeed, when it first launched in 2018, was just in Americas as we were getting started and kind of proving our thesis. And after, that would have been about 2.5 years, we were successfully, I think probably on our 6th batch by now, kind of showing that the idea worked and there was increased demand. We were getting a lot of emails from European founders that weren't able to work in the Americas time zones, and that's when TinySeed decided to expand out into the EMEA region, and that's when I joined the team.
But why do you think they chose you? What are the traits? What are the traits? Yeah.
So I have a bit of background myself in the bootstrapping community. Previously, I was the community manager and then ran operations for another bootstrap organization called the Dynamite Circle. A little bit different. Dynamite Circle is a bit different than MicroConf. They kind of a little bit of overlap. So they're sister organizations, whereas MicroConf and TinySeed focus specifically on bootstrapped SaaS founders. Dynamite Circle focuses still today on any type of location-independent online business. So that could be consultants, that could be e-commerce. And so I worked with them for several years running events, running the community there, working with bootstrap founders. And then I went on myself to become a founder and start a bootstrap company as well. I sold that after a few years. and I had been following TinySeed for quite a while. Actually, Rob spoke at Rob, our partner and one of our founders, spoke at an event that I actually threw. So I had been a big fan of what TinySeed was doing, and when I read that they were expanding into Europe, Middle East, and Africa, I thought I should reach out and see if this might work out. And luckily it did.
Fantastic. Great story. But what do you think are the traits that a program director should have? Probably a lot of connections, a lot of...
Yeah, I like to say the program manager, so me and Tracy, are essentially your go-to, your big supporters when you're in the program. We're here to make sure that you're getting the access to resources, answers, connections, really whatever a founder needs to either be overcoming challenges or growing from us. That's my role, is to make sure they're getting it, that they're getting the most they can from the program. So I'd like to tell founders, when you're facing a problem, even if you think it's small, like, come talk to me. As program manager, I don't always have the answers. I'm not the all-knowing, but what I do have is the connections to the people who have the answers in our community. So that might be a specific mentor. It might be another founder in the community. It might be one of our partners, Robert Einar. And I'm kind of your go-to to make sure that you're getting what you need. Outside of that, another big aspect of the program of our role is just running the day-to-day logistics of the program. So making sure that the program, like the calls that we're doing, that we're getting mentors that fit the challenges of what the batch is facing. So Tracy and I are reaching out to mentors, kind of managing those relationships, and also organizing the in-person events. So yeah, our role is always is founder focused. It's making sure that they're getting what they need and that the program is maximizing the value they can get.
Great answer. I like it. How many people are at TinySeed right now?
Right now, we have just passed, we are over 100 companies. I want to say 130 now in the most recent batch, and over 200 founders total. So it's grown quite a bit in the last year. You know, when we first started the first batch, it was literally about, I think, 10 companies, maybe 15, 20 founders, and now we're this entire community. It's pretty incredible to see the growth that's happening or happened and is still happening today.
What was your biggest challenge since joining TinySeed?
Biggest challenge? Well, I'm pretty lucky that I joined TinySeed after Tracy had done a lot of the hard work building the initial program. So I'm very lucky that today, you know, we have a very solid program that has figured out most of the kinks and built itself into what it is today. So a lot of my time is just spent on trying to come up with ideas outside of the data providing value to founders, like I mentioned, is coming up with ideas just to improve it, incorporate new ideas, get feedback from founders. Fortunately, we don't have any huge challenges in that sense. And also for me personally, you know, making sure that we get the word out to founders in the regions in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. You know, I'm a big believer in the program we've built, and I'm really trying hard to make sure that more founders are aware of this opportunity, so that if it fits with where they're at, that they can apply and join us.
You work with so many founders. What's something negative, a challenge that they face, and something positive, something good that they do? What's one down thing and one positive?
I think a mistake that sometimes we see founders face, and I'll say specifically technical founders, because in SaaS, not all founders are technical, but there's a pretty heavy push towards that. A lot of technical founders tend to get stuck focusing on features, too much on features, and not enough time focusing on their growth and marketing. So sometimes when founders apply for the program, you know, we like to talk about what they've done, and they've spent a lot of time on the features, which is great. And features are, of course, important, but almost no time on the marketing, getting the word out, spreading, and you know, there's kind of a balance there. You know, of course, the SaaS is a business, and there should be a balance between how much time you're spending building the product, but also spreading the word so that you can continue to grow and be sustainable. So that's something I see often is I think part of that is maybe because marketing and sales is outside of the comfort bubble of a lot of technical founders. They come from a building background, so naturally it's more comfortable to focus on building. But that's one thing I see. What I see on the strength side, especially in our founders, is experimentation, and that's kind of the counter to what I just said. Even if you don't have the answers and things that are in your comfort zone, like sales and marketing, experimentation is really where our founders start to figure that out and get traction. So that's having the willpower and the energy to go out there and try things, make a hypothesis on maybe a growth channel, a marketing channel that you think would work well for your business, and giving it a shot, putting in the right amount of time, the right amount of resources, money towards testing out that channel and seeing what happens. Sometimes it doesn't always work out, of course, but you're not going to know until you try. And I think bursting out of that comfort zone, experimenting, that's something I see a lot of our founders doing. It's a trait that we look for in founders, and over the long term, it pans out because those founders, they find the channel that works. After a few tries, they find the channel that can scale, and that allows the business to grow in ways that wouldn't have been able to otherwise. Yeah, so MicroConf is essentially the public-facing side of TinySeed. It is a community for bootstrap SaaS founders, and it's kind of made up of 3 different components. There's the events. So MicroConf throws events around the world throughout the year. There is the online community, Microsoft Connect, and there is mastermind matching that they do.
Okay. And what is the next event?
So the next event, there's 2 flagship events that MicroConf throws up here. The upcoming one, so there's one in Europe and one in the US each year. I cannot talk today. MicroConf Europe is coming up in October. It's going to be in my hometown, Lisbon. So we're super excited for that.
Awesome.
It is, last I checked, actually, they are about to sell out of tickets. I think they have a few left. So if anyone's interested in going, I would definitely recommend checking it out quickly. And then MicroConf US will be in Atlanta in 2024 in the spring. And on top of that, MicroConf does local events throughout the year. So I think there's a few coming up in cities like San Francisco. They just did one in Toronto, and that schedule is always evolving. But if people are interested, they can always go check out the MicroConf website. There's a full schedule of all the upcoming events, including the flagship events and the smaller local ones.
Thank you for sharing. And how big is the community? Is the online community? And I joined a few months ago. I really enjoyed it, but I saw that now the applications are closed. Why is that?
Yes.
Do you have any idea?
So they are at MicroConf is at about 5,000 members now. So it's quite a large community. And currently applications are paused just for a bit. The team is revamping a few features and things that they want to launch, and wanted to make sure that they were able to get kind of all these things out before they started bringing in applicants again. But there is a wait list, so if anybody's interested in joining, just go to microconf.com/connect and basically just put in your email address, and you'll get an email as soon as it's open. It shouldn't be too long. Same with the mastermind matching. They do that on a kind of a ongoing basis. So if you're interested, go join the wait list. But I would like to say, even though those are temporarily closed, the events are still going. And the events are an incredible way to be a part of the community. So if you're interested in meeting people in person, which I highly recommend because it's just hard to be in-person opportunities, I would look at the schedule, and absolutely the events are 100% worth going. They're incredible events. The speakers that come are some of the top names in SaaS, and the community, the people that you meet, the relationships you built, it's really the value you get from it is huge.
Yeah, it's incredible. We're looking forward to joining one.
Yes, absolutely. You should maybe come to Lisbon.
I love to. Yeah. Are there any specific traits that you look for founders?
That's a good question.
More than looking at the company and numbers and.
Yeah.
More on the
On the
personal side.
TinySeed side, we're looking at founders that are applying for the program. One of the big traits that we look at is coachability. So, I mentioned that one of the strengths of TinySeed is the mentorship. So, of course, one of the things we're looking for is coachability. It's a founder who is open to learning, taking advice, and putting into action the advice that we have to give. We spent a lot of time building this program that has the knowledge and the actions that the founders need to take. So, of course, we're looking for founders that are actually going to take that and put it into use. So a good example of that is, I mentioned earlier, our mastermind sessions. Masterminds are an incredible opportunity to get feedback from other founders. So something I like to advise to the incoming founders when they're meeting their masterminds is to lower your defenses. It's really easy when people are picking apart your business and giving advice to quickly put up your walls and defend away. Like, oh well, I didn't take that action because of this or that. And listen, hear out the different perspectives, because the other founders, and also the mentors, the people that you're going to interact with in a program like this, they have perspectives and experiences and unique backgrounds that you don't have, and that's an incredibly useful opportunity. So yeah, coachability, absolutely looking for. And another thing we look for, I'm still looking for the best way to phrase this, but right now what I've got, because I think it's funny, is I call it Fast and Furious. It's easy to remember, but it's a trait I like to see in founders. And what this really is I love seeing a founder who is willing to get dirty and take action quick on an idea or something that they're sure they think is going to grow the business. Because sometimes what we see as founders, kind of hem and haw, worry, you can have an idea and spend months drawing it out. But I love to see when a founder just goes at it and makes kind of the 80-20% happen in a quick time and does it themselves. So an example I have of this is we had a founder who realized that Google Ads would possibly be a really strong marketing channel for them. And of course, you could spend months trying to perfectly learn Google Ads before getting it launched. This founder took 1 week, just dived in himself, and just kind of figured out what he needed to know to get off the ground, the basics, and just started right away experimenting, learning, optimizing, putting it into action rather than spending months trying to read every book under the sun. Was he perfect at it in that week? Absolutely not. But has he become did he figure out the essentials that he needed to test it out and perfect it over the last few months? Yes, he is strongly proven that Google Ads is an incredible channel for that business, and that's kind of an example of something like that. Not chasing perfectionism, but taking action. We love to see that.
Fast and Furious, I love it. So now,
once you hear it's already trademarked.
Yeah, you cannot forget it. So fantastic. My next question was your best piece of advice for founders, but it seems like you already answered. But if you want to add something, please.
I still think I think what I mentioned earlier, experimentation. I would just harp on that again. Putting in the time and I think that also goes in with it bursting out of that comfort bubble. If you're a founder, look at what your skills are, look at what your comfort bubble is, and make sure that you're not using that as something that's holding you back from experimenting in the ways that you need to in your business, especially if you're a technical founder. Make sure that you're focusing the appropriate amount of time on growth and marketing channels. As uncomfortable as it can be, I completely understand. You don't come from a marketing background. It's not always the easiest thing to learn or do, but it's worth it, and really it's an essential to growing your business.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear your backstory. So how you started your career?
My backstory. So besides, I mentioned a little bit earlier about how I joined, I got started with the Dynamite Circle community. Before that, though, my background was actually in a very different world. I was in the world of international affairs and politics. I got my master's degree in foreign policy, specifically focusing on Southeast Asia. And for a time, I was convinced I was going to work in government. I spent 3 years in Washington, D.C. in that world.
Wow.
And this might be getting a little off track, but essentially what I realized at that time was that it just wasn't the place for me. It was too... I think at the time I was a bit naive and wanted to change the world, and realized that wasn't the way to do it. So I came back home after finishing my grad school degree, and much to the, I'm not going to say pleasure, sadness of my parents, said, I'm going to start a business after finishing a grad degree in international affairs. And which was crazy at the time, but eventually it was what led me to start working with bootstrap businesses in the community to eventually start my own. As a person, I love the freedom, the excitement that comes in building your own business, having to wear multiple hats. It's always been something that's drawn me in. So that's kind of my backstory, a strong pivot from politics into business.
Love it. I have one last question for you. What are your top 3 favorite SaaS products that you use?
Ooh, okay. So, let's see. My number 1 is a product that has recently saved my butt. So we decided that TinySeed wanted to start a job board for TinySeed companies. Like I mentioned, at this point, we're over 100 companies, and our companies are often hiring for new team members. And so we wanted a way to let them share that with the community at wide. And I took on that project. And as I started to research it, realized that most of the tools out there were just too complex, didn't have the features we needed, had a bad outcome. And then, wouldn't you know it, we ended up taking on a company that joined TinySeed named JBoard, whose very product was no-code job page builders. And that product is brilliant. So now we have a job board that is just absolutely gorgeous. Looks like it was custom built and spent a year and a lot of money on it, but it was actually produced by JBoard. So anyone out there that's looking for job board, absolutely recommend checking them out. The other, we do a lot of deals, obviously, a lot of signing papers, and another TinySeed company that is Signwell. I use Signwell all the time if you're looking for an e-signature option. And then I know, I feel like I've given 2 TinySeed companies, so I'll do one that's not TinySeed, to be fair. I am an absolute Airtable dork. I love Airtable. So Tracy, my colleague, and I, we've started moving a lot of TinySeed's backend data and processes into Airtable, and I love how much you can build it. So if you let me, I spend a lot of time tinkering around in Airtable, coming up with new ideas on things to build. And I think it's a brilliant product, and I love it.
Then goal would be to probably all the software that you use to be TinySeed companies. That would be fantastic. Those are my main questions. Is there anything else that you want to share on the podcast?
The only thing I would share is if you're interested in TinySeed, we'll be opening applications come September. We'll probably open it in the first week or so of September, and we'd love to see you apply. If you're interested, you can go to our website, tinyseed.com, put in your email, and we will send you in a notification. We open applications. And again, what I always love to tell people is even if you're not sure about joining, send in an application. If you're not sure whether you're the right fit, send in an application. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's a great starting point in the conversation. And it's a great exercise in its own to kind of pull back a little bit, think about your numbers, and answer the questions in the application. It's a great way to reflect on where your business is at. So, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I love to talk with founders who are either interested in TinySeed or just founders in general. It's great to connect.
Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for the value that you provided, and I'm super grateful. This was a fantastic conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian, too. This has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.